Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Have you ever thought about what truly drives a person to embrace the path of darkness? What if evil is not born but shaped by pain, loss, and ambition? In today's video, you will uncover the tragic and chilling story of the boy who became Lord Voldemort. Tom Riddle, also known as the Dark Lord, he who must not be named, the very embodiment of terror in the wizarding world. He is the villain we all know, a ruthless sorcerer who stops at nothing to achieve his goals. But he wasn't always like this. Once, he was just a boy, one who learned, dreamed, and even had friends. At what point did he transform into the feared Dark Lord? Did the darkness take root in his childhood, or was it a decision he made as an adult? And what was the turning point that led him down this path? Let's unravel the mystery. Wrap yourself in your invisibility cloak and let's begin. The origins of Tom Riddle. Tom was born into a broken family. His mother, Merope Gaunt, was a pure-blood witch, a direct descendant of Salazar Slytherin. His father, Tom Riddle Sr., was an ordinary muggle. But their love was built on deception. Merope used a love potion to make Tom Sr. fall for her. When she stopped using it, he abandoned her, leaving her pregnant and alone. Weak and destitute, Merope gave birth to her son in a muggle orphanage, where she died shortly after. And so, from the very beginning, Tom Riddle's life was marked by loss, abandonment, and a deep sense of resentment. A troubled childhood. Growing up in the orphanage, Tom was different. Strange things happened around him. Objects moved, animals obeyed his silent commands, and those who crossed him suffered misfortunes. He didn't just have magic, he had control over it, long before he knew what it was. When Albus Dumbledore came to take him to Hogwarts at age 11, the young boy was not surprised. He already knew he was special. He just needed someone to confirm it. The Hogwarts years, a brilliant mind with a dark curiosity. Sorted into Slytherin, Tom quickly became the most gifted student of his generation. His intelligence, charm, and ambition won him followers, students who admired his power and his ability to manipulate others. But Hogwarts also gave him answers about his past. He discovered his connection to Salazar Slytherin and the existence of the Chamber of Secrets. He learned about Horcruxes, the forbidden magic that could grant him immortality. And in his 5th year, he committed his first murder, using the basilisk to kill Myrtle Warren, later known as Moaning Myrtle. By the time he left Hogwarts, Tom Riddle was no longer just a promising student. He had already begun his descent into darkness. The birth of Voldemort. After graduation, Tom sought a position at Hogwarts, but Dumbledore refused him. Rejected, he vanished from the public eye, traveling the world in search of the darkest magic. He delved into forbidden knowledge, seeking ways to cheat death. When he returned, he was no longer Tom Riddle. He had transformed body, mind, and soul into Lord Voldemort. He gathered followers, the Death Eaters, and unleashed terror upon the wizarding world. The war had begun. What truly drove him to evil? Was Voldemort born a monster, or was he made into one? A combination of factors shaped his descent into darkness. Orphanhood and abandonment. He was never loved, never wanted. The pain of rejection festered within him. Pride and lineage. Learning he was the heir of Slytherin fueled his superiority complex. Unmatched ambition. He didn't just want power, he wanted to be the greatest sorcerer who ever lived. Resentment and rage. He despised his muggle father for abandoning him, and his mother for being weak. These forces twisted him into the Dark Lord we know. But the question remains, was there ever a moment when he could have chosen differently? Or was his fate sealed from the very start? Tom Riddle's descent into darkness was not a sudden plunge, but a slow, calculated journey. Every decision, every act of cruelty, every step he took led him closer to becoming the most feared wizard of all time. But could it have been prevented? Was there ever a moment when Tom could have chosen a different path? The years after Hogwarts were a time of transformation. While most of his classmates sought respectable careers, Tom had no interest in a normal life. He was consumed by a single thought: power. He wanted control, not just over others, but over life itself. Death terrified him. The idea that one day he could simply cease to exist filled him with dread. He needed a way to escape it. He found employment at Borgin & Burke's, a shop dealing in dark artifacts, but for Tom, it was not a job. It was an opportunity. Here he met people who possessed rare magical objects, and he studied them with an obsessive hunger. He listened, learned, manipulated. He was charming when he needed to be, ruthless when it suited him. It was during this time that he learned of Hepzibah Smith, a wealthy witch who owned two of the most treasured artifacts in the wizarding world, Helga Hufflepuff's cup and Salazar Slytherin's locket. When he saw them, something inside him shifted. These were more than relics. They were symbols of legacy, of pure blood heritage. He wanted them. 2 days later, Hepzibah Smith was found dead. Her house elf was blamed, but anyone who knew Tom Riddle would have seen his fingerprints all over the crime. The artifacts vanished, and so did he. It was the last time anyone saw the handsome young man who had once been a star student. When he resurfaced years later, he was unrecognizable. What happened during his years in hiding remains a mystery. Some say he traveled far, seeking out the darkest wizards in existence. Others believe he experimented on himself, warping his body, his soul, twisting into something barely human. What is certain is that when he returned, he no longer called himself Tom Riddle. That name belonged to a weak, abandoned boy. He had shed it like old skin. Now he was Lord Voldemort. His first act was to gather followers. Some joined him out of fear, others out of ambition. To them, he was a leader, a visionary, someone who would reshape the world. To Voldemort, they were tools, pawns in his grand design. He promised them power, but he alone would wield true immortality. The Death Eaters rose. Murders, disappearances, terror spread across the wizarding world. Families vanished overnight. Those who opposed him were silenced. He did not seek to rule. He sought to destroy and rebuild in his image. He believed only the strong deserved to wield magic, and the weak had no place in his world. Then came the prophecy. A child born at the end of July, destined to bring about his downfall. He could not allow it. He had come too far, sacrificed too much. He had split his soul, anchored himself to this world. Through dark magic, he was invincible. But the prophecy haunted him. There could be no risk. He chose his target, Harry Potter. A mere baby, but one who threatened everything he had built. That night, he entered Godric's Hollow. James Potter fell first, unarmed, defending his family. Lily Potter had a choice, to step aside and live, or to die with her son. She chose to die. And then the unimaginable happened. The killing curse rebounded. Lord Voldemort, the most powerful dark wizard of all time, was no more, but he did not die. His soul, already fractured beyond repair, was torn from his body. He became less than a ghost, a shadow, a whisper in the darkness. Years passed. The wizarding world moved on, but he remained. Weak, powerless, clinging to existence. He wandered, hiding in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity. And then fate intervened. Quirinus Quirrell, a timid, naive professor, stumbled upon something he should never have found. Voldemort saw his chance. He latched on to the young man, whispering into his mind, feeding on his fears, bending him to his will. He was no longer a man, but a parasite, a fragment of what he once was, and yet even in this state he was feared. He sought the philosopher's stone, the key to true immortality. But once again he was stopped by the very child he had tried to kill. Years later he returned, this time through the diary, a relic of his past self, a piece of his soul trapped in ink and paper. He lured another innocent Ginny Weasley, manipulating her, feeding on her emotions, using her to reopen the Chamber of Secrets. But even this plan failed. Every attempt to regain his former power ended in ruin. But Voldemort was nothing if not patient. He waited, watched, until the moment was right. And then at last, the time came. Peter Pettigrew, a coward and traitor, found him. Through dark rituals, through forbidden spells, Voldemort was reborn. No longer a shadow, no longer a whisper. He stood once more, stronger than ever, and this time he would not fail. The war resumed. This time there was no hiding. He moved openly, striking fear into the hearts of even the bravest wizards. His Death Eaters reclaimed their places. The Ministry fell under his control. Hogwarts, once a sanctuary, became a battleground. Yet, for all his power, for all his cruelty, he never understood one thing: love. He saw it as weakness, as a flaw. He never realized it was the very thing that had defeated him before, and the very thing that would defeat him again. Harry Potter stood before him in the Forbidden Forest, no wand raised, no spell cast. He was willing to die, willing to sacrifice himself, just as his mother had done. And once again, Voldemort's curse failed. The final battle raged. Hogwarts crumbled, bodies fell, spells shattered the night. And then, in the Great Hall, surrounded by those who had fought and suffered, Voldemort stood alone. He had killed, tortured, conquered. But in the end he had nothing. No friends, no allies, no love. Just fear. And fear, as he learned too late, was never true power. The wand in his hand turned against him. The spell he cast was his undoing. And with a final desperate scream, the Dark Lord fell. His body lay lifeless on the ground. No grand explosion, no dramatic farewell. Just silence. And so the boy who feared death met the very fate he had spent his life running from. Was Voldemort doomed from the start? Could he have been saved? Or was he always meant to become the monster he became? Perhaps, in another life, Tom Riddle might have been a different man, a great wizard, a hero even.